It was the second year of my marriage to Elena when Kyle sent a group of guys to wreck my dad's funeral. They threw buckets of paint around, set off loud firecrackers, hung up these massive banners, and blasted that song Celebration on repeat. They did all of that just because I existed. To Kyle and the fans who wanted him and Elena together, me being her legal husband was just an annoyance. Right at that exact time, Elena and Kyle were walking the red carpet for a promotional tour of their new movie premiere. A reporter in the crowd asked them if they had any regrets when it came to their love lives. Elena just turned and looked at her co-star without saying a word. Kyle's eyes lit up, and he delivered the most famous line from the movie. He said, "I really want to hold your hand, I do, but that wedding ring you're wearing? It hurts me." That was the narrative. I was the rock, blocking the path of their true love. And honestly, this time I was ready to just get out of their way and save myself. I was trying my best to greet the friends and family who had actually come to pay respects when my phone rang. It was Elena's assistant, Mr. Davis. He said, "Jack, Elena asked me to tell you she's sorry. The studio insisted she go to the premiere tour at the last minute. You know we can't afford to make them mad. Please try to understand." I wondered if it was really the studio that wanted her there, or if it was Kyle. The line went quiet for a second. I didn't want to hear whatever excuse was coming next, so I just hung up. My agent, Mike, looked at me and let out a long sigh. "I told you that woman was bad news, but you wouldn't listen," Mike said, gesturing around the room. "Look at this mess." He patted my shoulder, trying to be comforting. "Don't let it get to you. I'm here, man. I've got your back. Let's just focus on giving your dad a proper send-off today." It was my dad's funeral, and my wife Elena was a no-show. It wasn't just today, though. She had never once shown up for any important event in my life, big or small. I had been the one chasing her from the time I was 18 until I was 28. Even with our names printed on the marriage certificate, to her, I was still worth less than a pet. When the mob crashed the funeral, I just froze. A crowd of people started screaming, telling me to die, and then they began splashing red paint all over the memorial wreaths. The whole scene turned into total chaos. My chest felt tight, my head was spinning, and I nearly passed out just from how angry I was. Mike grabbed me just in time, shouting at the people around us. "Call the cops! Somebody call the cops! These people are insane!" I steadied myself and dialed 911, my voice shaking so much I couldn't control it. I felt so wronged, and I couldn't stop myself from calling Elena. The phone rang once before she just declined the call. For a second, I felt like I was dying. The world was a spinning, noisy blur, and I was completely alone. By the time the police cars arrived, a bright red banner reading, "Congratulations on the death of Jack Miller's father," was still hanging crookedly, and a speaker was still blasting Celebration on a loop. My dad's portrait was right there, in the center of the hall, covered in paint. The chaos only ended when the police finally subdued the troublemakers. Hi. The guy in charge was a stranger with bleached blonde hair and shifty eyes. I'd never seen him before in my life. When the police demanded to know why he was causing a scene, the man shot me a nasty, mocking smirk. "Just don't like the look of him," he said. He pointed a lazy finger at me. "You could say I'm one of Mr. Miller's biggest haters." I forced myself to take a deep breath to calm down. In the end, the group was taken away on charges of disturbing the peace. As the blonde guy was being pushed into the police car, he suddenly turned and mouthed something at me. When I realized what he was saying, something inside me snapped, and my heart sank. The silent word was homewrecker. That was my nickname. I'd been an actor for 8 years, never really making it big. The day the news broke that I was married to Elena, the haters came out of nowhere overnight. Back then, the media was obsessed with her and Kyle's on-screen romance. Their shippers, the fans who wanted them together, blew up the hashtag about our marriage, flooding my social media with tens of thousands of hateful comments. And that's how I got my infamous nickname, the Homewrecker. Because in their world, the rumor was that Elena's true love was Kyle. That made me the unloved one, the other man. I always knew their fans were crazy, but I never imagined they'd be crazy enough to crash my dad's funeral and ruin the memory of an innocent man. My dad was a good person his whole life. He didn't deserve to be insulted like this just because of Elena. When he was alive, he never approved of me following her around like a puppy. I used to just laugh it off, telling him I was just brave enough to chase after love. I glanced at my dad's portrait. The old man wore the same kind, gentle smile he always had. I felt tears welling up. "Dad, I'm so sorry," I whispered. "It's pathetic that it took me 10 years to understand that unrequited love isn't courage. Being a doormat, letting someone walk all over you, that's not courage either." After everything was cleaned up and the guests had left, only Mike remained by my side. He tossed his phone at me, looking annoyed. "Jack, see for yourself. Your wife is trending again." I was emotionally exhausted. I didn't even have to look to know what it was. Another hashtag about her and Kyle. Elena, the award-winning actress, and Kyle, the award-winning actor. Hollywood's favorite on-screen couple. I opened it anyway. Dansu, and countless fan-made videos of them popped up. In a clip from the premiere that day, they stood side by side. A reporter carefully danced around the subject, asking them about their regrets in love. Kyle's eyes twinkled as he smiled and delivered that classic line. "I really want to hold your hand, I do, but that wedding ring you're wearing, it hurts me." In an instant, the audience went wild. The camera panned to Elena. She looked composed, looking right at him, but her hand, the one with the wedding ring, was clenched into a fist. The tension was electric. They were barely holding it together, maintaining a fragile act of professionalism. I watched the video with a blank expression, a bitter laugh building in my chest. A few years ago, this would have sent me into a jealous rage. We would have had a massive fight. And in the end, I would have been defeated by her silence and coldness, forced to pretend it never happened, and just move on. I don't know why, but in that moment, a memory of our wedding flashed through my mind. I remembered putting the ring on her finger, telling her she could never take it off. Not when she was eating, showering, or sleeping. Never. Her face was cold, but she agreed without hesitating. "I won't." And like a fool, I thought that meant she loved me too, at least for that 1 second. But now, our wedding ring had become the silver handcuff keeping her from her true love. I scrolled down past the video to the comments. The fans were in a frenzy. "OMG, does anyone see the look in Elena's eyes? It's that I've already confessed my love in every glance I give you vibe." "I'm crying, they're so perfect. They don't need to make it official. Everyone just knows." Does anyone else feel like Elena is living out her dreams through her movies? Kyle is the leading man in every single one of her films. Someone replied to that one saying, "Totally. They're both such classy people with high morals. They feel the love but keep it respectful. They can't be together in real life, so this is all they have." Then there was one stray comment. "Can't you guys just ship them in the movies? Shipping a married woman with someone else in real life is kind of weird." The replies were unanimous. "Jack, log into your main account." "Ooh, the morality police are here to judge us. So scary." Everyone was convinced this was proof of their tragic, real-life love story. They were using the movie's script to publicly declare the love they couldn't otherwise express. Neutron. Besides blowing up the hashtag and their fan pages, the fans had also left tens of thousands of comments on my social media. "LMAO, so glad to see everyone is dragging you." "You can't force love. So what if you manage to trap her into marriage? LOL." I was tired of reading it. While Elena was busy sharing the screen with Kyle, their fans were busy bullying me online and crashing my dad's funeral. I slipped the wedding ring off my finger and turned to Mike, my eyes dry, but my voice cracking. "I want a divorce." I was done being the third wheel in their epic love story. Mike stared at me for a second. "You've finally come to your senses." He slammed his hand on the table, grinning. "A divorce is the best thing you could do. It's what your dad would have wanted." When I got a call from Elena's phone later, I didn't expect Kyle to be on the other end. A clear voice came through the receiver. "Mr. Miller, Elena has had too much to drink. Could you come pick her up?" I didn't have the energy to wonder how Kyle knew Elena's passcode. I just let out a bitter laugh. So I was supposed to host my dad's funeral during the day, then play taxi driver for her at night? It suddenly hit me just how much I had let her walk all over me. In the past, no matter how late it was, one call from one of her friends and I'd be there to carry a dead-drunk Elena home from some party. But this was the first time Kyle had ever called. "Sure thing. Send me the address," I said with a slight chuckle. Then I calmly hung up and turned off my phone. I opened the window and lit a cigarette. I took a deep drag, the cold air filling my lungs along with the smoke. Elena hated the smell of cigarettes. The first time I'd ever smoked was 10 years ago. I was 18 when my dad was suddenly diagnosed with lung cancer. Elena and I had just started trying to make it as actors. I borrowed money from everyone I knew, but it wasn't even a tenth of what we needed for his medical bills. A fairly well-known director approached me and said money wasn't an issue, on one condition. I had to sleep with one of the investors. He had this slimy, evil grin when he said it. His eyes narrowed. I almost threw up. I sat up all night in the hospital, staring into space. The little boy in the next bed offered me a cigarette. Before the sun came up, I figured if I just closed my eyes, I could probably keep myself from getting sick. I'd do anything to save my dad. So I borrowed a lighter from the kid, planning to smoke it and go. Just as I exhaled the first ring of smoke, Elena showed up. She slapped the cigarette out of my mouth, her eyes colder than I'd ever seen them. Then she tossed a bank card at me. Elena said she'd been cast in a big production and gotten an advance on her salary. She sneered, "You don't have to degrade yourself now." And just like that, on that day, I fell head over heels in love with Elena. Weird, right? Considering how she'd just insulted me. But it made sense in a way. She'd saved my dad, and in doing so, she'd saved me too. It was only natural that I'd fall for her. After that, I became her loyal servant. If she told me to go east, I'd never dare go west. She said the sight of me smoking made her sick to her stomach, so I never touched a cigarette again. Until this year when my dad's lung cancer came back. I had plenty of money, lots of it, but it was useless. When I got the call that he was in critical condition, I lit a cigarette, and I couldn't stop. My thoughts returned to the present. The city lights flickered in the night, blurred by the white smoke I exhaled. A gust of cold wind made me shiver. I felt a strange sense of clarity. All these years, the love, the hate, it all felt like a long, hazy dream. I was curled up on the living room sofa. At 2 a.m, the clock chimed twice, and the front door suddenly opened. Elena switched on the entryway light. Her eyes landed on the glowing red tip of the cigarette between my fingers, but all she did was frown slightly. "Can't sleep?" I didn't say anything. I didn't get up to greet her like I used to, wrapping my arms around her waist and murmuring her name. Then no. Elena pinched the bridge of her nose, looking exhausted. She walked over to me. "I'm sorry I couldn't be at Dad's funeral. I'll go see him first thing in the morning." Elena sat down beside me, smoothly took the cigarette from my hand, and stubbed it out in the ashtray. "I know you're hurting," she said, looking down at me. "But I didn't have a choice, Jack." I ignored her and lit another cigarette. "Who brought you home?" She seemed taken aback by the question, freezing for a second. I let out a laugh that poked fun at myself. "Kyle called me from your phone. Said you were drunk and needed a ride. I didn't go, so who brought you home?" Elena was silent for a moment. "I didn't know he called you." I looked at her. It was all so clear. "A famous actor dropping a married actress home in the middle of the night," I said mockingly. "If a paparazzi caught that, your fans would have a field day." "Jack?" Her eyes went cold as she said my name. "It's just a publicity stunt. He just gave me a ride because it was on his way." "Really? Then how did he unlock your phone?" "My wife's phone passcode. A secret to me, her legal husband, but known to her publicity stunt on-screen partner." She frowned. "I don't know." This time I couldn't help but laugh. "Then what do you know?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do you know that your fans trashed my dad's funeral today?" I didn't want to get hysterical like I used to, but in that moment I realized just how much Elena's coldness and distance over the years had gotten to me. She didn't even call me back after the premiere. She never even asked me what was wrong. I looked at her. My love, my wife. The fire I'd been throwing myself into for 10 years. A sharp pain shot through my heart. I squeezed my aching fist. Elena, we've dragged this out long enough. It was time to stop. Let's get a divorce. It's what you've always wanted. I'll set you free and I'll free myself. What did you say? Elena's face instantly darkened. I felt a wave of exhaustion and didn't want to speak. She grabbed my arm. Her cold eyes scanned my face, and she practically ground out the words. Jack Miller, I dare you to say that again. I almost laughed out loud. 10 years ago, on the day my dad was discharged from the hospital, Elena showed up with a bouquet of flowers to pick us up. I tentatively asked her if she wanted to go out with me. Her body stiffened, and when she looked at me again, her eyes were filled with icy contempt. Jack Miller, you've fallen for me just like that? You're so cheap. We'd known each other since we were kids, and we'd always rubbed each other the wrong way. I knew that her thin lips could spit out the cruelest, coldest words imaginable. So I didn't care. I shamelessly latched onto her. She scoffed. Jack Miller, I can date you, but I will never love you, and I will certainly never marry you. Her tone was vicious and cruel. Anyone else would have probably given up, but I wasn't anyone else. So I watched as Elena's career soared in the entertainment industry while I struggled, unable to keep up no matter how hard I tried. My career is taking off right now. I can't go public with our relationship. If you can't accept that, you can get lost, she informed me from her pedestal. I just grinned. I can accept that. After all, my worst-case scenario was her dumping me. But she didn't, which was a pleasant surprise. Until we were secretly photographed, went viral, and our 8-year relationship was exposed, Elena, with her perfect public image, saw her popularity plummet. People online accused her of being irresponsible for being in an 8-year relationship without making it official or getting married. My dad saw the articles and stormed over to Elena's place, his face grim. I'm putting my foot down. You two are breaking up. From now on, you have nothing to do with our family. She refused. So we logically proceeded to get married, and everyone was happy. Everyone except Kyle, the fans, and Elena. The day we got our marriage license, Elena frowned through the whole thing. In our official photo, she looked completely reluctant. If you really don't want to. We don't have to do this, I said, testing her. We could just stage a wedding, put on a show. That could work too, she sneered. We're already doing it. What's the point of trying to be smart now? From dating to marriage, she was like a reed in a flood, swept along inch by inch. I knew Elena had never wanted any of it. Just like how when she was 15 and abandoned by her parents, it was my dad who fed her and paid for her schooling. She was with me, married me, to repay that debt. Maybe she'd always resented me for holding her back, and that resentment extended to not wanting to see my dad one last time. But now that I was offering her a divorce, offering her freedom, why was she acting like she didn't understand? I said, let's get a divorce. Jack Miller, you're insane! She scooped me up in her arms. I couldn't break free. She carried me to the bedroom and threw me onto the bed. Just as I thought she was about to pull some dramatic, possessive movie scene, she just threw a blanket over me. We're sleeping in separate rooms tonight. You need to calm down and think things over. Elena turned and walked out. This was her signature move. The cold shoulder. It always worked on me. Whenever my emotions ran high, Elena would suddenly withdraw and refuse to communicate, leaving me feeling like I was punching a pillow. I was terrified of her coldness, so I would start to blame myself, tearing myself down until I finally gave in, begging for her approval like a dog. It was always the same. But now, stepping back from the relationship, I could see it for what it was. A complete and total test of my submission. For all these years, I was never even worthy of having a real emotional conversation with her. Once I'd figured that out, I texted my lawyer and forced myself to sleep. When I woke up, Elena was already gone. It was usually like this. This place was as cold and impersonal as a hotel to her. Maybe I shouldn't have insisted on calling it a home. The lawyer who dropped off the divorce papers had just left when Elena pushed the door open. She walked up quickly behind me and wrapped me in a hug. "I'm sorry." Her warm breath ghosted across my neck. "I already went to see Dad, and I've taken care of the people who caused trouble yesterday. Don't be mad anymore, okay?" I turned to look at her, putting an arm between us and forcing a smile. "Is there anything else you want to say?" Elena looked at me, confused. She rarely used her connections to help me out. This was one of the very few times I could remember. The entertainment industry is a tough place, especially for an actor like me who got a late start. I was used to being given a hard time and looked down upon. Whenever I mentioned it to her, Elena would just give me a half smile and say mockingly, "Jack, everyone goes through that." Then she'd pat my head. "Don't be discouraged, okay? I'll be waiting for you at the top." Over time, everyone knew that the great Elena kept a clear distance from me in the industry. The people who judged you based on who you knew became more and more common. And this time, I clutched my phone and looked Elena straight in the eye. "Don't tell me you don't know who was behind it." My phone was still open to the message from Mike. The trashing of my dad's funeral had ties to Kyle. I didn't know he hated me that much. He'd covered his tracks well. There was no concrete evidence, but he'd left just enough of a hint for me to know it was him. And until this very moment, Elena was still covering for him. Her helping me out was really just protecting him. Faced with the truth, Elena's expression soured. I pushed her away. "Enough!" I picked up the divorce papers from the table and threw them at her. "Elena, I'm out." She picked the papers up off the floor. As she read them, her face turned to ice. Elena looked at me in disbelief. "Jack Miller, stop being ridiculous. It's not what you think." I found it kind of funny. I watched her, waiting. "Then tell me, what is it?" "Without clear evidence, I can't just go around accusing my professional partner," she said impatiently, reaching for my hand. "If you're trying to use divorce to make me back down, Jack, congratulations, it worked." She pulled me into a fierce hug, her voice laced with anger. "I'll cut back on my contact with him from now on. Are you satisfied?" I suddenly felt an overwhelming sadness. So all these years, she knew exactly what I wanted. She just never gave it to me. "Elena, you're not thinking clearly right now." I pushed her away. "Let's separate for a while. You should really think about this." I threw her own words right back at her. As she watched me call a moving company, the anger on Elena's face suddenly vanished. She leaned against the guest room doorframe, arms crossed, a look of absolute confidence on her face. "Jack Miller, you've really grown a backbone," she scoffed. "If you walk out of this house today, don't ever come back." Then she spun around, went into the room, and slammed the door with a deafening crash. Even then, she was still so sure that I would never leave her. Elena didn't take a single step out of that room, not even as I moved the last of my belongings out of the house. I moved into the apartment my dad had lived in. Traces of his life were everywhere, and it felt comforting. To get me back on my feet, Mike managed to get me an audition for the supporting role in a film by a well-known director. I gave it everything I had and landed the part. Elena never contacted me. Surprisingly, I found that life without her was freer, more comfortable. Until one night, my phone suddenly rang. I groggily picked it up. Mike was on the other end, hesitant. "Jack? What's up? What happened?" I rubbed my eyes. He was silent for a second. "Kyle and Elena were photographed going into a hotel late at night. Twitter is completely down." My hand trembled, and the phone fell onto the bed. Even though I had already decided to divorce Elena, it still stung. I never saw this coming. "You guys aren't even divorced yet. Those two seriously They have no shame." Mike was grinding his teeth, furious on my behalf. "Don't drag this out. Use the public opinion to force a quick divorce. If that doesn't work, sue her." Mike hung up and I tried to open the app. The page was just a blank gray screen with a reload button. After a while, I finally got in. The trending list was topped with "Elena cheats with Kyle" and "My ship is real." There had been similar rumors before, claiming Elena was cheating on me with Kyle. But most of it was just speculation without any real proof. Both of their teams would always issue statements immediately, a well-oiled machine of denials and clarifications. So the fans had always called them soulmates. Two classy people who felt the love but were too moral to ever cross the line. But they couldn't help but get carried away, saying that they'd done everything but sleep together. This time, I clicked the hashtag and saw a huge, high-definition photo of Kyle helping Elena into a hotel. The kind of photo that's impossible to deny. The comment section was on fire. The fans' celebration only enraged everyone else, and countless regular people jumped in to defend me. 8 years of a secret relationship, 2 years of marriage, all for this. When I thought about it, yeah, my life was pretty miserable. Both of their studios were strangely silent. Under the latest promotional post for their movie, the top comment was, "Why no denial? Is it because it's not a rumor?" My notifications were blowing up. The comments section had transformed from fans' insults to messages of sympathy from fans and strangers. My heart breaks for him. Die, you cheating scumbags! I can't imagine what this guy has been through all these years. With that level of patience, you can succeed at anything. I used to hate on the shippers. How could you ship a married woman? Turns out they were shipping the real thing all along. My reputation was completely turned around. Strangers rushed to my defense, and I gained tens of thousands of followers in a short time. But Elena and Kyle's fans were also trying to control the narrative. Trust our girl. We all know Elena's character. There has to be more to the story. Don't judge without knowing the full picture. Let's wait and see. LMAO at people calling our Kyle the other man. Everyone knows Jack is the homewrecker. He was probably already divorced, if you know what I mean. Jack, stop playing dead and come out and say something. I almost wanted to laugh, but my lips wouldn't move. I couldn't manage a smile. We weren't even divorced yet, and my wife was already so eager to be seen with another man. After some thought, I sent Elena a message. Courthouse, 8 a.m. After we divorce, I'll release a statement on social media to clear your name. At 8 a.m., Elena was there as promised. She took off her sunglasses, her face pale in the sunlight. Jack Miller, you're really dead set on this divorce, aren't you? I didn't know how she had the nerve to say that. I didn't answer, just started walking toward the courthouse entrance. She grabbed my wrist, refusing to move. Last night was a misunderstanding. It's not what you think. I drank too much, and he just got me a room at the nearest hotel. That's all. Elena's voice was impatient as she rushed through the explanation. I believe you. I stopped and turned around. I saw a surprising spark of hope in her eyes. I forced a smirk. Go ahead and use that excuse in your official statement. See if your fans believe it. See if the public believes it. 2 a.m, a man and a woman alone after drinking at a hotel. Time, place, people, plot. It had all the elements of a perfect scandal. If Elena dared to say that, her and Kyle's careers would be over. She was speechless, choked by my words. We get divorced. I let you and Kyle be the perfect couple you're meant to be. And I'll tell the media we had already agreed to separate a long time ago, but got delayed for various reasons. That way you and Kyle aren't technically cheating. It's a win-win for you. What are you hesitating for? I looked at Elena, confused, and couldn't resist a taunt. Or is it, Elena, that you've actually fallen in love with me? You can't bear to let me go? The words were barely out of my mouth before I wanted to laugh myself, as if she had an ounce of feeling for me. If she did, she wouldn't have let her fans bully me for years. She wouldn't have left me to be humiliated at my own dad's funeral, and she certainly wouldn't be going to hotels with another man before our divorce was even final. I looked at the person in front of me. I had to admit I'd started falling for her long before that morning at the hospital 10 years ago. Back when we were teenagers, she was from a wealthy family, top of her class. She was the kid next door my dad always compared me to, my natural-born rival. At the school sports meet, during the 3,000-meter race, she was on the announcer's platform reading messages of encouragement. I was gasping for air, about to give up, when I heard her clear voice. Suddenly, I found the strength to keep going. If her mother hadn't had an affair, and her father hadn't walked out, if the golden girl hadn't become an orphan overnight, Elena would have never given me a second glance. The day my dad invited her over for dinner after she hadn't eaten for 3 days, she finally noticed me. "You are?" My surprise turned to shock. I stared for a moment, then sneered. "Are you blind? I sat right in front of her. By then we'd been in the same class for 3 years. I refused to believe I was that unnoticeable. I preferred to think she was just that arrogant." From then on, we couldn't stand each other. But it turns out I might not have been a star, but I wasn't a nobody either. I'd worked my way up to where I am today. I'd won awards, gained fans, earned praise. I was shining my own little light in my own corner of the world. It's just that from then until now, Elena had never once truly seen me. All this time, she'd never really looked at me. I had worked for 10 years just for that one look. 10 years later, I had to admit I shouldn't have been so desperate for it. Looking at her now, a nasty thought crossed my mind. If you kneel and beg me, I might consider not divorcing you. She was stunned. As she stood there frozen, I laughed again. Just kidding. You could bow to me 10 times and it wouldn't make a difference. She laughed, furious. Jack Miller, you were the one who begged me to date you, begged me to marry you. Don't you regret this? No regrets, I said, my voice firm. After we filed the papers, Elena looked at me coldly. There's a 1-month cooling-off period. If you change your mind, you can cancel it at any time. I smiled. Whoever backs out is a dog. Seeing I was resolute, Elena turned and left in a huff, getting into her car with a stony expression. I just stood there for a long time. Suddenly, I felt like a chain that had bound me for 10 years had just vanished. The sun was so bright. I drafted a statement explaining that Elena and I had planned to divorce a while ago but had been delayed for various reasons, and that we had recently filed the paperwork. Then I posted it on my social media. Soon after, both of our studios released simple, vague clarifications stating they were just friends. This move helped Elena win back some public favor. Some people figured she wasn't technically cheating, since our relationship was already over. Others still thought she and Kyle were scum, who had definitely been hooking up for a while. And there was evidence to support that. I closed my social media apps, done with all the drama. I had done more than enough. But with Kyle, I wasn't finished. No matter what, for disturbing a dead man's peace, he had crossed a line, and so would I. I just didn't expect to see Elena again so soon. The movie started filming shortly after. On the first day on set, I discovered that the original leads had been replaced by Elena and Kyle. I was speechless. A director of this caliber couldn't possibly afford 2 A-listers like them. It was almost funny. The lengths they would go to just to mess with me. The rest of the cast and crew seemed to sense the weird vibe too. Everyone was unusually quiet. Only the director and the investors were grinning from ear to ear. After all, the 3 of us and our tangled relationships were a walking headline. The movie was already generating massive buzz without a single bit of promotion. Mike's face was grim. How can they be such assholes? But at this point, it was too late to back out. It is what it is, I told him calmly. Unkind? But seeing the 2 of them laughing and joking in front of me was still unsettling, especially the way Elena would sneak casual glances at me and how Kyle would size me up from time to time. The director said my scenes with Kyle would be filmed later. By the time it was my turn, it was already late, and everyone was visibly exhausted. For this scene, my character had to go through several layers of emotion, and I had spent all night preparing. Facing Kyle for the first time, he looked down at me with a smile. Mr. Miller, a pleasure to work with you. The shoot went smoothly. I could hear people around me praising my performance, and I couldn't help but smile a little. Even opposite an award-winning superstar like Kyle, I held my own and matched his energy perfectly. The director beamed and called cut. But just as he was about to move on, Kyle stopped him. Everyone was confused. He pointed at me. I think Mr. Miller still has room for improvement in that last take. Wouldn't you all agree? Kyle blinked his handsome face, looking gentle and harmless. But no one on set dared to disagree. People exchanged nervous glances. I took a breath, forced a smile, and said, "Let's do it again then." So we did it again, and again, take after take, over and over. By the time it was early morning, the crew was muttering complaints under their breath. The director finally spoke up, tentatively suggesting, "Maybe we should call it a day." Kyle strode over to the director and casually reviewed the footage. After a few seconds of thought, he said, "I think my performance was best in the first take. Let's just use that one." And with that, he walked off. After the crowd dispersed, my assistant ran up to me, fuming. "He did that on purpose." Her lip trembled. "I'm so angry for you." While I was waiting for my car, I saw a familiar figure walking toward me. It was Elena. She stood in front of me, hands in her pockets, silent for a moment. "What is it?" I knew Elena had been in the crowd, just watching while Kyle was giving me a hard time. Without the filter of love, the thought that the person I had adored for 10 years was actually like this. It made me feel sick. She didn't say anything, so I turned to leave with my assistant. As I passed her, she suddenly grabbed my arm. "Jack, I can get back at him for you," she said, pausing. "All you have to do is give in." Before I could speak, my assistant, unable to stand it anymore, slapped her hand away. She sneered. "Elena, you need to have some shame. I don't believe for a second you didn't have a hand in what happened today. Guess what? Once he was out from under your thumb, he realized it wasn't even raining." Elena's face went pale. Her lips pressed into a thin line as she stubbornly waited for my answer. I gathered my patience and told her slowly and clearly, "Stay away from me. You make me sick." She staggered slightly, as if she couldn't believe those words came from my mouth. Finally, her lips trembled. "I'm sorry. I won't let him give you a hard time again." That's all I heard. The rest of her words were carried away by the wind. After that, Kyle really did stop bothering me. Except for our scenes together, I stayed as far away from both of them as possible. A few times Elena tried to talk to me, but I always managed to avoid her. Going from husband and wife to strangers wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. The day our divorce was finalized was also the last day of filming. At the wrap party that night, everyone was busy fawning over the two leads. After a few drinks, Elena sat there restlessly rubbing the rim of her glass, clearly impatient, especially when her gaze swept over to me. Kyle was flushed, a little drunk. He reached out to grab her sleeve, his voice a little whiny. "Elena, I'm drunk. Will you take me home?" She paused, her eyes instinctively flicking toward me. I was sitting in a corner sipping my drink, not saying a word. I didn't even look at her. The entertainment industry is full of people who know which way the wind blows. Even with me, Elena's ex-husband, in the room. It didn't stop them from sucking up to the two of them. One person, emboldened by alcohol, even blurted out, "Are we going to be hearing wedding bells soon?" My expression didn't change. But Elena, apparently not getting the reaction she wanted from me, turned cold. She irritably shook off Kyle's hand. "If you're drunk, call a car. I'm not your driver." The smiles on everyone's faces froze. The hazy look in Kyle's eyes sharpened, and the color drained from his face. He was used to being the center of attention, coddled and adored. When had he ever been publicly humiliated like this? But because it was Elena, he couldn't lash out. Tears welled in his eyes. Kyle gritted his teeth, downed his drink in one gulp. "Excuse me." He grabbed his bag and, ignoring everyone, turned to leave. I glanced at my watch. It was about time. As luck would have it, before he could even get out of sight, the door swung open and a group of police officers walked in, flashing their badges. "Mr. Kyle, please come with us for questioning." It happened so fast. Everyone was stunned. Kyle froze in place. The director knocked over a glass, which shattered with a loud crash. Someone stepped forward. "Is there some kind of mistake?" Of all the people there, the director looked the most horrified. The movie had just wrapped. It hadn't even been submitted for review yet. If his leading man became a criminal, he'd be ruined. He'd lose everything. No matter what anyone said or thought, after a few minutes of chaos, Kyle was taken away. The wrap party ended in disarray. Walking out of the hotel, I felt great. I lit a cigarette, enjoying the cool breeze. Elena caught up to me from behind, looking like she wanted to say something. But she didn't say anything. She just took off her jacket and draped it over my shoulders. "Do you hate me?" I asked her. She didn't seem to understand. "What?" I stopped walking and tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. "For wasting so many years of your life, or for about to destroy your beloved, do you hate me?" Elena shook her head and opened her mouth as if to explain, but all she said was, "You should be the one who hates me. I'm so sorry for everything I put you through." I couldn't help but scoff. "At least you're self-aware." Looking at her lost, haunted eyes, I found it amusing. Smoke blew into my eyes and they started to water. It stung. I coughed a couple of times. Elena frantically tried to wipe my tears away and took the cigarette from my hand. I wiped my face and casually draped her jacket over her arm. "Let's go." Some things like smoke in the wind just disappear. Kyle was brought in on suspicion of inciting public disturbance. He wasn't some saint to have climbed so high in the entertainment industry. It wasn't just me. Other actors who had crossed him had all suffered at his hands in one way or another. He cultivated a harmless, innocent public persona, but behind the scenes his methods were dirty. He even had a crew of people who did his dirty work for him. Trashing my dad's funeral was just one of many things. When you do enough bad things, no matter how well you clean up, you'll always leave a trace. I had someone gather all the evidence and secretly sent it to one of his old rivals, a washed-up actor whose face he had ruined, forcing him to quit the industry. As expected, the actor immediately reported him. He also bought a ton of press. With Kyle's level of fame, the moment he was arrested, gossip bloggers jumped on the story, blowing it up. His studio issued a legal threat promising to sue anyone spreading rumors, but they were immediately slapped in the face by an official police statement. Kyle was a criminal. His reputation tanked overnight. Massive numbers of fans turned on him, and the shippers vanished into thin air. All sorts of scandals started popping up like weeds. Bullying in high school, skipping college classes for filming, being a diva on set, sabotaging his rivals with smear campaigns. Even the story of how he deliberately gave me a hard time on set was leaked by a crew member. I, and several other victims, became objects of public sympathy. Elena, who always loved being associated with Kyle for publicity, didn't fare much better. Her public image collapsed, with only her most die-hard fans sticking by her. Her new movie was a box office bomb, and as an investor, she lost a fortune. She was dropped by several luxury brands, her TV show appearances were cancelled, and for the foreseeable future, she was uncastable. It just goes to show, those who live by public opinion will die by public opinion. My only loss was that the movie I made with Kyle would probably never be released. Looking at the countless scripts Mike sent over, I picked a few good ones and gave him a call. "After I finish these, I'm quitting. I'll have enough to retire, and I want to travel the world." Finally, I could live for myself again. When I was little, my dad used to tell me, "Elena, you were born a princess. You'll get everything you ever want." And he was right. In school, I barely had to try to get top grades. I inherited the best of my parents' looks, and I'd been getting love letters since I was a kid. Over time, in Dieu, I really started to believe I was special. Before I was 15, I barely paid attention to anyone else. My indifference and arrogance were seen as maturity by my teachers and aloofness by my classmates. They found all sorts of ways to attach beautiful words to me. It was strange. Until one day, the sky fell. That day, my mom brought home her lover's daughter. She was only a few months younger than me, ugly and bad at school, but she paraded in front of me with a malicious grin. "Sorry, your mom is my mom now." "Oh wait, she was always my mom. You don't have a mom!" I told her she was full of it. It was the first time I'd ever cursed, but she was right. My mom really didn't want me anymore. I couldn't understand why she would choose that ugly, stupid girl over me. Later, my dad looked at my face and said, "You look just like your mother. It's disgusting." Then he left and never came back. My dad didn't want me either, even though they had always said I looked more like him, that I was beautiful like him. That year, at 15, I suddenly realized I was special, especially miserable. That was the year I learned to pay attention to other people. The first person I noticed was Mr. Miller from the next building. He said, "You poor kid." He said, "Come eat at my place." The second person I noticed was Mr. Miller's son, Jack Miller. He was so rude. The first time we met, he called me blind. I hated him. I didn't understand why my world had been turned upside down. My teacher said, "Cat got your tongue, kid? Why don't you talk anymore? Being so quiet isn't good." My classmates said, "Her mom and dad both abandoned her. Look how gloomy she is every day. It's creepy." That's when that annoying Jack Miller stepped in. "So what if she doesn't want to talk? Your obsession with other people's vocal cords is really weird. So what if she doesn't have parents? You have parents? If your parents raised you to be like this, you'd be better off without them." Suddenly I thought maybe he wasn't so bad. But he got sent to the principal's office for insulting a teacher and his classmates. When he came out, he shot me a furious glare. My heart started pounding, but he seemed to hate me even more after that. Later, for a while, we were inseparable. We went to class, walked home, and ate dinner together. Sometimes I'd even help him with his homework. He became almost as important to me as my own hands and feet. After that, I can't really remember clearly. That was probably the most painful time of my life. I vaguely remember Jack got a girlfriend. She was just as wild and chaotic as he was. He started skipping class, climbing over the school walls, going to internet cafes. It gave his dad a huge headache. We didn't walk home together anymore. He didn't have time to stand up for me. While the teacher was yelling at me for my plummeting grades, he was passing notes to his girlfriend asking what she wanted for lunch. While a group of girls cornered me in the bathroom and beat me up, he was at an internet cafe playing games with his girlfriend. The sound of his keyboard clattering away. I started to hate him. Why was he ignoring me? Why wasn't he protecting me anymore? I think he did try to check on me once, in a moment stolen from his romance. He asked about the bruises under my eyes, but by then I had learned how to shut people up. None of your business. So we drifted apart. Until after graduation. He didn't get into college and insisted on following his girlfriend to the big city to try and make it. His dad said he was heartless, abandoning his old man for a girl. Jack just laughed and then he cried, saying that once he made it big, he'd bring both his dad and me over. He hugged me at the train station before he left. It felt so strange. Then he walked away without looking back. 2 months into my freshman year of college, I got a call from his dad. He told me Jack's girlfriend couldn't take it anymore. A month ago, she had stolen his wallet and run off. He was too embarrassed to tell anyone, so he'd been struggling alone, penniless for a month. When he couldn't take it anymore, he finally called his dad for help. That day, I took an overnight train to find him. He was filthy, like a homeless person. In that moment, I was furious. So angry, my heart ached. I coldly yelled at him for being so pathetic, for letting some trashy person reduce him to this. He covered his face and cried, repeating my words. "I'm so pathetic." That night I decided to drop out of college and build a life with him. The memories after that are a blur. His dad got cancer and was in the hospital. The bills were enormous. Jack suddenly came to me and said, "There's this older woman. She said if I sleep with her, she'll pay for my dad's medical bills." I was speechless. I couldn't tell him no, but I couldn't tell him to do it either. In that moment, I hated something fiercely. Maybe I hated how powerless I was. But my anger twisted my words, and all that came out was a mocking, "You're so pathetic." He opened his mouth, then looked down and walked away. I shouldn't have said that. Later, I managed to earn the money for his dad's treatment. The look in Jack's eyes that day was so bright, sparkling. He was kind of adorable. I swore to myself that I would make a lot of money. Then he said he wanted to date me, but he never said he loved me. Later, I became famous. The publicity stunts with a famous actor made me a lot of money. Jack started to get jealous and bitter. He finally became like me, like I was during all those years of silent hysteria. I loved seeing him act like a madman. Even more, I loved it when, after a huge fight, he would have to come crawling back to me, his eyes wet and pleading like a little puppy. Only then could I feel that he loved me. He didn't know that I was the one who leaked our relationship to the press. Everyone online said he forced me into marriage, but I knew I was the one who did the forcing. When those fans insulted him, it hurt me to see it, but when he turned to me, cornered and helpless, and threw himself into my arms, I felt an overwhelming thrill. So that's what it felt like. The roles from our youth had been completely reversed. I loved having this control over his emotions. I loved that he was pathetic, but only for me. I loved that he was surrounded by enemies, with only me to rely on. I especially loved the tears he cried when he was hurt, the ones that smelled of pain and helplessness, day after day, year after year. But how did I lose him?
Oh, auto mod worked. I didn't even see that. That's pretty sweet. I like attacking on Sobek. This can be pretty fun. Actually, attacking and defending for this map is pretty decent. The first point is the best, and then after that it kind of falls apart. What up? What up? How do I say it? Is it Draco or is it Draco? 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 Okay. Cool. I'm gonna change that. Oh, I can't do it through Chatterino. Dang it. I have to pull up my Twitch chat. For streamers, they can actually like edit the names of viewers to make it easier for them. And it only shows for the streamer. It's useful AF, but I don't think I can do it on Chatterino, which is super lame. But I like using Chatterino because I can have multiple chats pulled up. Oh, some story so far. This band used to be like one of my favorite bands of all time. I haven't really listened to them that much anymore, but like I have like this is their self-titled album.
I've spotted a hostile sniper in our AO.
I have this. It's their self-titled.
Move to attack the marked objective.